Hello, we are live. Welcome to Exit and Elevate, the very first one actually of 2025. So, my friend and I had done this twice last year to sort of test not even test anything, we were facing our LinkedIn Live fears. And so we were like, can we do this? We're going to get on live. And actually, it was fine because it was just a conversation and most people see the replay anyways. And so I thought, why not bring this back? In a way to celebrate all of the incredible entrepreneurs that I've been able to connect with along my journey. And so that's exactly what we're doing today. Thank you everyone who is joining us, who's going to catch the replay. We have with us here Phylecia Jones, and I'm so excited to chat with her, the researcher and founder of I Find You Clothes. We have chatted for quite some time, and we've been talking a little bit about, about behind the scenes of her journey. I'll allow her to introduce herself in a moment. But if you think her name sounds familiar, it should, because we profiled her in this article about her journey from dance and Navy science and TEDx and to now where she is with I Find You Clothes. So without further ado, let's go ahead and have Phylecia come on in and introduce herself. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to talk again.
Thank you for having me. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty well. I can't complain. Hump
Yeah.
day. It's almost to Friday.
Yeah.
Can't complain.
Yeah. Well, thank you so very much for having me. I have to say it's been a while since I've done a live interview, so I don't have a good snazzy bio to introduce myself. I am so out of practice for somebody who runs a speaking company. But just a little bit about me. I am the researcher and owner of I Find You Clothes, where I go out and find speaking gigs for people who want to get on stage. But my path has been very interesting, just like in the blog post, the article that you posted. Yeah, I was a baton twirler in high school. Went to college on a dance scholarship in the marching band at an HBCU. Got a degree in computer science. Did a whole lot of computer sciencing. Got to travel the world, and eventually landed in Colorado with my husband. Launched my own business. I started talking to people about money and budgeting. Eventually, it went into speakings and on my creative side, because that's just what I do. For some reason, it just doesn't go away. I do photography and I do travel. Right now, I'm traveling in my RV, and we are stationed in Florida at the moment.
I love that. And yeah, we'll have to tell folks where you're going to be after Florida because you've got something really exciting coming over the summer. So you'll have to
Oh,
stay tuned to get
yeah.
that
Oh, we're
location.
gonna do a tease. Okay,
A
that's great.
tease. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
Find out where Phylecia goes next. Right?
because
Stay
it's a
tuned.
life changer. Oh my goodness, it's a life changer.
Well, speaking of life changer, I think that's one of the reasons that I found your story so compelling is like we're talking Women's History Month, and I wanted to do the series about sort of women who are like making their own history, like how folks are living their lives on their own terms, going against the grain. And sure, you're an entrepreneur, but you have such a fascinating lifestyle that you have, created, engineered for yourself. And so in an RV. That's one clue, one signal. And then there's going to
Yeah.
be something exciting, moving forward from there. But like let's start from the beginning, and I really encourage everyone to check out the article so that you can get some of the details of the behind the scenes story. We won't just reiterate that, but we know that you get to Morris Brown, Bubbling Brown Sugar, right dancer. But did you know what you wanted to be when you grew up, when you were younger? That's one of the things I like to ask adults. I don't like to ask children that. But like, did you know? Did you have an inkling?
Of course not. Of course not. I it's easy looking back now because I had a really good friend ninth grade. She knew exactly what she was going to be. Like I can go all the way back ninth grade. She was going to be a pediatrician, hands down, and she is a pediatrician right now. And
Mm.
it's just like, yeah, I didn't have that. I was, I looked at Claire Huxtable. I'm gonna be a lawyer. And then by my senior year in high school, I was like, I'm going to do computer engineering and go work for Sega Genesis. So that ages me big time. Uh, and then when I got to college and we were, you go do your sign up for the computer engineering major, I didn't like the advisor. So I switched over to computer science. And I was like, well, this is good enough because I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I did a volunteer thing in high school in the mailroom at a hospital, and I knew absolutely then the hospitals were never going to be my thing.
Yeah.
So it seemed like the right thing at the right time, and so I did computer science, and I will say I never really had a path, uh, but I did think I did the right things. I did do the right things so that opportunities were always there. And I think
Yeah.
that, when I do my little walks with my husband every day, we kind of go through this, like, we have philosophical talks while we're walking, but it was just this thing of like, I feel like I put myself in a position so that I can have opportunities come to me instead of shutting them down the whole time. So I think I just got lucky with the opportunities that just appeared.
Yeah, I hear you. I that resonates with me in that I didn't necessarily know. I think at one point I was like, "Oh, I wanted to be." There was this like black ice skater that was who when in the 80s. I was like, "Oh, I want to be like her," but that wasn't
Debbie
real.
Thomas,
Something
American,
was
or
it
yeah,
Debbie?
Debbie Thomas. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a Debbie something. Yeah. And then I was like, "Okay, maybe not." I think I took like 2 ice skating lessons, but I always right? And so I agree in that I didn't necessarily have a very strategic, like, ooh, this is what I'm going to be. Because
Yeah.
in my sense, I didn't see what I became. We didn't have cable. I didn't know that I could kind of have the life that I did. But I always followed sort of alignment, that's something that just kind of felt right. And you call it luck, but I don't know if I would call it luck so much as like you positioning yourself in
Yeah.
these right opportunities and just staying open to what comes. Right. So I think that
Yeah.
there's, you know, something, a little something there. So, okay, you go to college, you major in computer science, and then in the article you all read, like how she really was determined to get there. You got some
Oh, yes.
scholarships, and then after college, you like are pre-faxing, pre-scheduling faxes, right, to find a job. But you start doing all of these different, seemingly unrelated things. So can you walk us through really briefly, like you get this job, sort of doing what,
Yeah.
and then sort of kind of a little bit
Okay,
of
so
of
the
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 winding path,
career
yeah.
after, like, once I actually got my job after college,
Yeah.
um, and, just to kinda go back a little bit about, the luck and positioning, I do think one of the things that has always driven me is kinda like how I didn't want to be, if that makes
Mm,
any sense. Like, I
absolutely.
knew I wasn't gonna go live back in my parents' house, so I needed to do something. So it was
Yeah,
like, "Okay, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not going there." So, like, "All right, we gotta do things to get a job." Eventually, I did get a job, but this was actually one of those opportunities. I used to go to the career center, at my school, and they called 6 months later, and that's how I ended up with the job working for the US Navy out in San Diego. So, it was something that I had already done. They just came way later
yeah,
with the offer, and that's how I ended up in San Diego working on the beach and doing all kinds of crazy things. And just
yeah,
going with that life change. I got the opportunity to travel throughout
yeah.
Europe because of the projects. And that little, and I know this has always been a resonating theme when we have talked of that creative leg is always there. So I decided,
Yeah,
hey, let's go audition for a cheerleading team. So I did like some professional cheerleading. I took dance classes and all that stuff while I was
yeah,
still having this 9 to 5 job and traveling. And then, of course, it's San Diego. If you've never been, you should go. It's a beautiful place to figure out what you want to do in life.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, professional cheerleading, and then can you not leave out the most interesting summer experience of
Oh,
the the circus? You gotta
now
tell me
nowadays, I'm like, what is the most interesting thing about me? Like,
about
so yeah, because I mean, like literally last summer, I got to sit on a river with bears, so that was pretty cool.
Oh,
But
that is
no,
cool.
I spent the summer in a circus, and it was weird how I got to it because I was a member of the United States Twirling Association, and they have regional conferences. So I got a chance to go up to Davis, California, and I was in San Diego. Took one of the, how they have classes at the conference, and one of the instructors was in San Diego. She was like, "Oh my gosh, you're in San Diego." She said, "I don't teach or coach individually twirling, but I'm a part of this circus. Just come hang out with us." And so that's how I ended up being part of the circus. And she was also the body double for not Marissa Tomei. Oh my gosh, in Charmed. I forget. I love her.
Oh, one of the sisters?
Phoebe. She was for Phoebe. I forget the
Okay,
actor's actor.
Alyssa Milano?
That's it. She was the body
Yeah.
double for Alyssa Milano when she had to do her stunt scenes. So yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So what I'm hearing is you networked your way to being in the circus, essentially.
You
Like you
know, yeah, you can call it networking. I just happened to be in the class. She mentioned she was from San Diego. I call it just making friends. You make
Yeah.
friends, you talk to people, and you just kind of go from there. So that's like I said, it's
Yes.
always those things where not really having a path, but you create it and being open to opportunities, and things just kind of fall into place.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so you work in this Navy role, like the Navy scientist role for 11, 12 years. You have all
Hmm.
these external, like extracurricular experiences. You eventually leave, become an entrepreneur. You start speaking, you start coaching, as you said before.
Yeah.
And then you trust all of these things. You become a TEDx speaker. Do you want to tell the story really quickly of like how that sort of happened?
Once you get into the world of speaking, you kind of get caught up in the energy of everybody else. And like most things, you're like, ooh, because, once you jump into something new, everybody wants to be a TEDx speaker. It's like, ooh, I do too. What is that? You know, uh, like, what is
Yeah,
it? I want to be a part of
yeah,
it.
yeah.
And what happened was, I think I applied a couple of times, and it never really worked out because I don't know, I was still trying to figure out what type of speaker I was going to be or was.
Yeah.
And eventually, I think probably like the last week of the deadline, because before I had always had these very formal, very thought out applications, and I was just like, screw it, I'm just gonna talk about the thing that makes me upset the most. And that's kind of how I led with it. It wasn't, I just said, you know what, I'm just sick and tired of women saying they're bad at math. And then I just kind of
Mm.
basically I had a little vent session with that application. And it was so surprising 'cause I was like, oh, that's like the worst thing I've ever turned in my entire life. And then I got a call back and I was like, get out of here.
Yeah, it's probably the
So
passion that
then,
you had with it though, you know?
well, what, it was the thing. And what really, and for any of you who are looking to try to do a TEDx, what I like the way they did this application because it forced me to not be big. Their thing
Mm.
was, what is your idea to change the world in 6 words or less? And I was like, oh, okay. So that kind of got me going, and like, okay, if I had to summarize it in 6 words, like, how do I do this? So that's what kind of got it going, and it seemed to have worked out.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, and so all of that comes together. We're going somewhere, people. It's the
Mhm.
title of the Embrace Your Winding Path, it's going somewhere. You eventually get to I find you clothes. And then you see in the article we talk about it, it's like it was finally the sort of aha, like, ah, heavens open up, like experience or combination of all of your experiences venture that was just like, yes, this makes sense. Can you
Yeah.
maybe say a little bit, because again, we want y'all to read the article, say a little bit about how you sort of got to that point where, like, okay, I find you clothes as a thing. And yes, this makes sense. Now all of these, past random experiences like are coming together for this moment right here.
You know what? What really kicked off I Find You Clothes was my birthday. I think I was either turning 39 or 40.
Mm.
And I don't know, something was just calling to me that I needed a walkabout. I just
Mm.
needed, I have learned through my travels that I love going to big cities. I love solo travel. And and I like big cities because I can just walk. I just need to
Mm.
walk. I'm not one of those people that, oh, I'm gonna go immerse myself culturally. I love people like that. That's not me. I like to walk and be silent, you know.
Uh-huh.
And but
Yeah.
it helps me to kind of just think through, like sitting on the plane, just thinking through, like, okay, what is the next chapter in this life? And the idea just came to me of, because so many people kept asking me about speaking, and it was just something that I was doing for myself, the research side, because my background, I just knew how to find stuff. Like, I was good at
Yeah.
just finding stuff and trying to make things work. So this is what I was just doing for myself, and so many people were asking me, and they were asking, it was like they were asking to become a speaker. I tried to help them. It wasn't really my bag. And then I realized it's the research. You know what? I know how to do it. I'm good at it. I know how to be consistent with it. And you know what? I'm just going to give it a try. So on my walkabout, I went to London.
Mhm.
Actually, a whole other story for the post show now of how I landed that gig, but ended up over there with a gig for my birthday. I spent my birthday by myself and just had a walkabout and just trying to figure out the next chapter. And that's kind of how I've always as I've gotten older, just thinking about what's the next chapter and what I want it to look like, and that's how it started.
I think that's really important. I think for us to just sit with for a moment, to like really, you said it a couple times, even just in this conversation, and you say it like we quoted at the end of your article too. It's like you
Hmm.
really were intentional about like deciding for yourself what you want your life to look like.
Yeah.
Sort of not letting your circumstances sort of pull you along and just like you look up and, oh, 20 years later, I'm in this thing that I hate. But you were like, no, 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 no. Like, this is my life. I'm going to live it. What do I want it to look like? And then you went
Yeah.
about sort of exploring, testing, trying to make your way to that version of life. And I think that's really, really, really powerful that I hope someone, just grapples with or pays attention to or holds on to it, sits
Hmm.
with it for a little while. I will ask you though, at the moment, at that time, as you're sort of making your way to I Find Your Clothes, what was your perception of sort of all of these seemingly unconnected experiences in your life? Did you make any meaning of them, or was it like, huh?
It probably has more meaning now. I think then I was probably just at the beginning of trying to understand how all this stuff came, how was all coming together. And at that point I was just kind of like, I think my life is like Forrest Gump, and I don't know if if you haven't seen the movie, you should. But it's like
Yes.
you just kind of walk into something and it works out, and it's just like, okay, that wasn't that hard, and you don't overthink it. And I feel like so much of what I've done was not the overthinking part of it, and you just walk in. And I know it sounds a little weird, but even when I got into speaking, it was like, okay, I needed to launch my business, but also it didn't feel hard to me. It was fun. It wasn't hard. Um, and then eventually you got to the point where like, okay, I've done that. What else is there to do? So I think it was just all coming together, that these were just all these mix of experiences that make you, I like to call it, makes you an interesting person,
Yeah.
because you always got to find something to talk about when you go and do chit chat, and the weather's not
Yeah.
always that great to talk about. So
It's
it's like you're
not.
just this full person. And now, and I think we talked about this, like one of the biggest things that has really inspired me was the documentary about Tina Turner. I know it's random, but I didn't realize that Tina Turner literally started it was like her third act at 44 years old and became a rock star. And it was like, okay, all
Yes.
these little bits and pieces, they do add up to something, and it's going to take you somewhere. But it's also like you just got to stay open to like, okay, there's opportunities there. But yeah, it's still coming together, that all of these random seeming experiences or things I've done, I do think it's coming together. I'll have a better answer maybe in 5 years. But
No,
that's
that's a
kind of where it
perfect
is now.
answer. Yeah, and it's this conversation now is starting to feel for me, and it's probably because of where I am in my own journey. It's starting to feel more about mindset than anything. Because for you
Hmm.
to be like, one, you said entrepreneurship wasn't hard when so much of the narrative is like, oh,
Yeah.
entrepreneurship is
I
hard. It's
mean,
hard.
it's
It's
hard.
hard.
Like,
So
let
yeah,
me say it's
yeah, no,
hard, but
no, there are
hey,
there are
yeah.
challenging moments,
Yes.
but for you to be like, I walked into it and it was like, okay, I can do this. I'm enjoying it. Or the other part where you're like, I just said yes to things, and I was like, okay, now it's time. You didn't overthink it, and so I
Yeah.
like reside in a place of overthinking, and so and then I'm like trying to make meaning of the thing once I'm in it, and I think we say in your article about cracking the code. Just want to remind y'all, if you're on the purpose post, this is the one you should be looking for. But it's like you say that you didn't overthink it, but I spend so much time like trying to like make a meaning
Hmm.
from this circumstance or this situation. And you're like, girl, I just showed up, I did it, and I was like, okay, I'm trying to move on to the next thing. And
Yeah.
we talk about, my point was, we talk about cracking the code in the article for your takeaways, and I think that's like a really huge hack about like winning at life is like, just say yes. Don't take it too seriously. Don't overthink it. And when it's time to go, go.
Well,
You
you know
know?
what? In the last couple of years, just seeing with, and this is not a political thing, but just looking at the direction of the United States, looking at the direction of people having gone through COVID and the pandemic, I've gotten to the point where like I'm not going to take life too seriously anymore, because you
Mm.
can't. Because life, you'll be serious, and then life will like, I'm gonna break your shoulder now. Ha, deal with that. Because life is a petty bee. Like, life is so petty sometimes. So, it is like you're dealing with this little petty thing, and it's like, "Well, I got this life path," and then it was like, "Well, we're gonna make your toenails fall off, so you
Yeah,
can't get pedicures
exactly.
anymore." And it's like, "Okay, life, I see what you're doing." So, it's one of those things, like, I've gotten to the point where I don't take it too serious anymore because it's
Yeah.
just 'cause you can, and especially at I'm 47, just turned 47, and,
Yes.
as I'm getting older, my friends are getting older, my parents are getting older, and then, you know what, I'm not 20 years old, and I can't talk like a 20-year-old, so it's like,
Yeah.
"Go and enjoy your lives, kids," but it's just like, I can't take this too serious because most things we circle back and you're gonna revisit the same things again. Then also you have to take care of yourself, and I think the last couple of years, one thing that has been, like, coming up in my mind constantly, is Michelle Obama's book, Becoming,
Yeah.
and I don't know if you've read it, but there was a
Mhm.
section in there where she was talking to the kids in Chicago, and kinda talking about their circumstances, and I remember, and I'm, probably not have the quote exact, but she told those kids, like, these people don't care about you. No one's coming to save you. You're
Yeah.
gonna have to save yourself with the resources around you. And that's kinda how I'm looking at things is like, nobody's coming to save you. Not you know what? Prince Harry is gone, y'all. That was the last hope we all had, and some of us didn't realize we had a chance, So it's like you
Yeah.
have to so you gotta go take care of yourself, and but at the same time, find this joy and this happiness because life is
Mhm.
like I said, life is petty, so you're gonna have to just be happy, especially when it wants to be petty towards you.
Yeah, choose happiness anyways. Save yourself with the resources you have around
Yeah.
you. That's really, really, really great. So then we are talking about your journey in general. What's really important to me, I think one of my highest values here, and it drives so much of the work that I do in my career with Career Steward, is career fulfillment. Is this, I think we all deserve to have a sense of pride and purpose in our work. And when you don't, there are articles or studies around that show what happens when you hate the work that you do, what happens to
Mhm.
your body, to your mind, your spirit, your life. And then there are studies that show like what happens actually when you love your work, how much money you can accumulate. Like it just really makes a difference. So, what does career fulfillment mean to you, or freedom? Either one of those approaches, I think they're kind of synonymous in my opinion. But what does that mean to you?
Oh my gosh, that's, I thought about this question when I saw it, when you emailed it to me.
Yeah.
And And to be honest, I'm gonna have to go and say I look at it more as a life fulfillment, because the biggest thing I've learned for entrepreneurship is that I can't take myself out of the life part of it, we
Yeah.
try to separate our career. Here's my job versus me at home, or here's my solo business, me on internet versus me at home. And I've just slowly learned that you cannot remove yourself from any parts of this. Your career dictates how you live,
Mm.
and how you live dictates your career. So I think the biggest thing that I've learned with the uh life fulfillment, career fulfillment is keep yourself part of this and always kind of check in with where you want to go and where you want to be. Because sometimes it's going to force you to get out of your comfort zone. And I think
Mhm.
that's okay. Not a lot of us are getting out of your comfort zone is scary, and then as
Yeah.
you get older, it gets even scarier. So I think it's just always kind of check in with yourself and figure out and ask yourself, is this where I want to be right now? And then sometimes your career will align, and then also not being afraid. That's the biggest one, and I know this is coming
Yeah.
from a place of I don't know, could be coming from a place of privilege as well, but you just can't be afraid when is not working. One of the biggest things when I moved from being a money coach over to I Find You Clothes, I mean, girl, I was trying to hang on to that business. I had whiteboards put up. I had my husband install this huge whiteboard on one of the walls. It was decorated. It was all cute and things. I had all the different color dry erase, and I was like, we're gonna do this package. We're gonna do this. We're gonna do this. So I had a whole thing, and my husband was like, "Why are you holding on to something that is not working?" And I was like, "Dang,
Ooh.
that hurt," and it hurt, and it was just like, "But I don't want to be a failure." He's like, "Sweetie, this thing been failing," and I was like, "Oh God." Like, so it's like one of those things, like, just recognize when it's like, don't give up too soon, but also just
Yeah.
recognize, like, man, if you are trying to revive and the defibrillator said stop, it's time to just don't be afraid to try something new. And that's kind of what kicked off me going to do the walkabout, because I was at that crossroads of like, okay, this ain't working. We gotta try something new now.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole separate conversation, I
Yeah.
think. There are definitely times where you're like, you know it's supposed to be a thing, and you're like, it's just about which door is gonna open so that it
Yeah.
works. But if you know, and I wonder, maybe we can just segue into that just a hair. I wonder if was there any part of you when things weren't working out where you were like in your spirit, you just kind of weren't even excited about it anymore, but you were trying to force it just on principle? Or was it really like, like what was it like within you?
Oh, girl, you need to start a whole new segment called After Breakfast and Wine, because that is a whole that's a whole other discussion. But yeah,
Okay.
I mean, because you just feel it, and it's just
Yeah.
in you, and and it's like I mean, like, even I'm going through that now, because it's just like, okay, there's this thing that's just sitting here like, this is I'm good at this. I make money
Mhm.
at this. And then
Mhm.
but your soul is like, but you're supposed to be over here. And that's a hard one. And
Yes.
I don't know what you do. Like, is either, and this is where you have to not be afraid to take the risk, because sometimes going
Yeah.
from one thing to the other is risky.
Yeah.
Or you just have to decide, like, I will do this other thing in some other capacity, but this is the one that's working right now. So I don't know. It's a lot of the logical side of me. There's a lot of planning with it, but also that creative spirit side is like, you know what? And I think maybe that's, to be honest, I'm thinking through it, maybe that's the time for these two sides to talk. Like,
Yeah.
the creative side, let's just go jump, and logic, like, no, we can't jump because things crazy right now. So you got to come up with
Yeah.
a plan so that we can jump strategically and not hurt ourselves.
That's the perfect way to put it. I was gonna say that. Like, it doesn't mean don't move, stay
Yeah,
there and let your soul die. And it also doesn't mean jump blindly without any, parachutes. Like, be
yeah,
strategic
it's time for a
with how
plan.
you can
It's
move
time for a
forward.
plan.
Exactly. Get strategic to
Yeah.
see how you can move to a place that is more fulfilling, freer, one that is going to work. Because if you had
Hmm.
said, in my spirit, I knew this was the right thing, I just hadn't found the right way, then yeah, maybe you could have stuck it out. But if you already
Yeah,
knew in your spirit that it was just like,
yeah.
I'm trying to make this thing work, then yes, like that's the signal.
you
And I think a
know
lot of times those are the signals that we ignore, quite honestly.
and to be honest, we have so much technology. I know you're getting very smart people, very well educated folks watching this. We have so much technology that I'm at the point now, you can't say I don't know the way forward. Because
Mhm.
my best friend ChatGPT will come up with a way forward for you. And it sounds weird, but it's just like sometimes you just put it in, it was like, okay, that's actually doable. Like, I think I
Yeah.
could do that. So yeah, we have so many resources now that, I mean, sometimes the way forward is just asking the first question, and then that will kind of guide you where you need to go.
Yes, I mean, they love to put this quote up around MLK Day, but the MLK quote about the you just need the first step, you don't need the whole staircase. Like
Woo.
that's a life principle. It's a whole
Yes,
word.
it
It's a
is.
whole word. It'll preach itself, as they say in the church,
Yes.
okay? All right. So then what's one thing that someone can do today to take one step closer to their version of, like freedom or fulfillment?
You know what? Oh gosh, we talked about so many things. There's so many things you can
Mhm.
do.
Mhm.
The first thing is, I mean, are we talking practical or like some really good stuff? Uh,
Let's do really good
w-
stuff and maybe
yeah,
practical will work its way in there.
I would say I actually think the first thing to do is to ask the question. If you're looking to something else, ask the question, how can I get here? And like I said, we have so much technology and resources, even if it's not telling you the complete truth. At least it'll answer the question for you to start the juices rolling, to start brainstorming. The second thing after that, I would just say, because of the climate we're in the United States with things are iffy, tariffs, money, taxes, get your money straight. Make sure
Mm-hmm.
while you're asking the question and you're creating a plan, make sure you have your money straight. Because right now, and this is just the money side of me right now, like, you can be risky, but we can't be crazy risky. We got to be risky within
Yeah.
within what we can handle, because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want anybody to like go off and it's just not going to work. So just ask the question and then put down a solid plan that includes you having food, water, and shelter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's a
Yep.
word. Yes. Be practical. Be bold, but also
Yeah.
have some sense about it.
Yeah. Now, when we get to the point where
Okay.
money's flowing everywhere, go crazy, But right now, just be a little bit more practical with things.
Ball out from the
Yeah.
money coach.
Yeah.
Says the money
When it's
coach.
right. Right now, we're gonna
Right.
ball lightly. Ball lightly, y'all. Ball lightly with
Ball on a
coupons.
budget. Okay.
Yes.
Until you can then you
Yes.
ball out. Okay, last question. And we've talked about a little bit about it, but tell us more about I Find You Clothes and how people can find you.
Oh, I Find You clothes. It at its simplest. I go and do all the research to find speaking opportunities for people who want to get on stage. So you don't have to spend your 6 hours where you should be bawling. I will go and do all of that for you, finding all the gigs for a week, and I will post them for you. And you can go and check them out, see what works for you, what works in your schedule. You apply and you go close the deal. So that's what the basics of it is. Every week I go and do the research to find speaking opportunities, writing opportunities, things to get your name out there. And it's a monthly subscription. You come and join. And you know what? You go and start marketing yourself to get on stage. And even though things are kind of crazy right now, there's still a lot of speaking opportunities right now. It's not for the strong will survive. That's what I will say. The strong will
Mhm.
survive. If this is just a willy-nilly thing, it's going to be a little rougher for you because things aren't, their money isn't flowing as it was, say, like 5 years ago. But
Yeah.
right now, the strong will survive. If you have a plan, you can get on stage. So you can come
Yeah.
join us and come check out ifindyoukclothes.com. I have a couple of things that I'm working on over the next couple of months, but yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, I love it. And I just want to just like affirm what she's saying. I am a subscriber of I Find You Clothes,
Mhm.
and there is an overwhelming amount of speaking opportunities to pitch yourself for. I also, and the writing ones too. So I also went and followed I Find You Clothes on Twitter. And so there's sometimes my phone is just blowing up with reshares from Phylecia and I Find You
I,
Clothes. And like, this person's
I
looking for
will.
this and this person's looking for that.
Right. I mean, literally, you know what? My goal, my thought process behind I Find You Close, because so many people in the speaking industry, they don't want to share. And I'm just like,
Mhm.
it ain't rocket science, y'all. I've been around rocket scientists. Like, this ain't it. This is like, so my thing is like, this ain't it. So I just want to share whatever I find. Like, literally, I
Yeah.
will find it. You do with it what you want. So if I see grants and if I see opportunities that I think are great, I just kind of post them like, hey, this might be of use to you. Every blue moon, I'll slide into a friend's text like, hey, I saw this. And they're just like, this is random. Like, I thought about you. So let me know how it works out.
Oh, I love that so much. I mean, definitely use it as a tool for whatever body of work that you're building. For those of you who are
Yeah.
listening, I'll make sure I put the link directly to it in the comments of this event specifically. So if you're catching the replay, you'll have direct access to it. One other thing I'll put in the links because of, the conversations that we're having and all of the stories we're publishing on the Purpose Post, Career Steward is here to support folks, professionals, with dreams of freedom and fulfillment towards
Mhm.
their way, finding their unique path towards self-employment. And so if that sounds like you, I'd love to invite you to grab a 30-day self-employed starter kit here at getmystarterkit.com. I'll also put that link in the comments below. And then when you're on the Purpose Post, check out Phylicia's article. I mean, the story is just so interesting. I'm so glad we're elevating it here today. And the point of it all is that for all of us who have these nonlinear backgrounds where we've done a little bit of everything and now we're at this other place where on the outside looking in it could seem as though Like,
Yeah.
oh, all these random things don't make any sense. But oh my gosh, they do, right? This is for you. Like, it's just for you to stop. What do I want to say? Stop, I guess, judging your background, your past. Stop
Mhm.
viewing what you've done in your past as not enough, as not good enough, and to really just own it, own your story. I think is probably the biggest takeaway I'd have here, because it will take you places if you allow it. So, any final thoughts you'd like to share, Phylecia, before we head
Oh,
out?
for all of I think the fun thing about people who have these nonlinear paths, take photos. I know it sounds weird, but take photos because sometimes we have to be reminded that we did some cool stuff. I think I told you this before, like, because when in my overthinking phase, my friend was like, "You've done cool things in your life." I'm like, "No, I haven't. I haven't done this. I haven't met this." He was like, "Didn't you perform in front of 100,000 people?" And I was like, "Yeah, but everybody does that." He was like, "No, no, everybody doesn't." I'm like,
Everyone
"Oh,
does
okay."
not. Yeah.
Like, I just thought everybody did something like that, why not? But I think the thing is just take photos and remember it, because at the end of the day, it makes you a really cool person. It makes you an interesting person, especially, me at 47 when I'm in the RV park talking to people. Not that you're trying to flex, but it's kind of fun to
Yeah.
flex.
Oh, you will flex in the RV park, which reminds us we have to get back to that teaser we started earlier. And for those of you who are still in the corporate environment and y'all going to do an icebreaker with two truths and a lie, you will never lose if you have really interesting things in your life. So
No,
just
never. I mean,
use
I
it.
got a flex for everything. Like, my husband makes video games. I mean, you want people to start talking to you. It's like, "Oh my gosh." I was like, "I don't do it. He
Yeah.
does. I just seem cooler because I'm married to him, you know?"
Yes, you won't ever lose. So yeah,
No,
if
you
if
won't.
someone put "I spent a summer in the circus" as their two truths and a lie,
See?
hands down, someone's gonna
You know
always
what?
choose that as the lie.
That's
So
what you would take from everybody. You will never lose the more interesting you are. You won't. You'll never
you will
lose.
not lose. Okay, so the spoiler. Well, I guess it's not a spoiler. Now it's the reveal, right? So
The
we are
reveal.
in
Yeah.
Florida. We're in an RV. You have just first of all, tell the people what you've been doing in this RV for however many long,
Oh,
what couple
the
years.
last 2.5 years we've been traveling around the United States, going to magical places, going to national parks. The highlight of all of it, we spent last summer in Alaska. I was sitting on, like I said, on the river, looking at bears, taking little tiny planes over glaciers. It's been
Mm,
pretty darn cool. So I have enjoyed it. I have hiked my butt off.
yeah.
Gone through a pair of shoes. I'm on the second pair now. But now we're
Nice.
in Florida because this was just a holdover for the next chapter. I'm going to start sailing. So we will get on the boat in July and start sailing up and down the East Coast into the Caribbean.
Oh my gosh. I mean, can we drop the mic right there? If for no other
Yeah.
reason, like so that you can live your life if you desire to that way. Like
Yeah.
that is freedom. That is fulfillment. And that
Yeah.
is a woman creating her own history. Okay, period. Right.
I
So
know.
I'm excited for y'all. I can't wait
I'm
to
excited.
hear stories and see pictures from this next chapter of your life. And
You'll
thank
have
you
to
for
come. You have to come over if we're going to be off the coast of Georgia in August, so you have to come over. Drive down to Savannah.
then yes, like absolutely. Yeah, consider me there. I'm for real
Yeah.
too. So I will be I will be there. But I appreciate you, Phylecia, like being able to share your story on the Purpose Post and then to be here sharing it this way. And so forever whoever's going to hear this story after this, even this conversation today, I just pray that it's a reminder to them that they can have the life, whatever life and career that they imagine for themselves. And so thank you for being a part of that. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.
All right, folks, we'll see you at the next one.